Today we have a unique conversation with you guys. We are going to talk to an agency owner of I've Got Dreams, who are formerly known as Our Day Job. As an owner of 4 different studios across North America, their success is undeniable. And we are about to get into the head of one of the owners as we talk about a lot of things that happen behind the scenes and how this industry actually operates. We are going to touch on trends and the way that the industry is going and what exactly the market is looking for. So in front of us here today, we have Doug, the head of production at I've Got Dreams. And I can't wait to share this episode with you. So welcome to Applebox Podcast. My name is Danny Lau, and I'm alongside my co-host Anthony Valsinas. And right in front of us, we have Doug Izon. Let's get into it. All right, so we have Doug from Our Day Job here with us today. Doug, welcome, man. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Why don't you just tell the audience who you are and what you do?
Awesome. Well, my name is Doug Izon. I am a co-owner of a production branding quasi-agency in Toronto, and we have offices in Vancouver, Toronto, and Chicago currently.
Oh, nice. And Our Day Job, how did that start? Where did that originate from?
I think all of my partners will say they came up with it. But it was many nights. We used to be called, because we started as we didn't know what we were, right? We were a wedding company, we were whatever. So we went the wedding company route. We were like Stonewood Films, I think we were called, like 3.5 years ago. And then basically we decided that that we probably needed an update to the brand as we went more into commercial and got out of weddings. Yeah. So we basically, it was probably about 2 weeks of going to the bar every night, meeting up with some copywriter friends that we were friends with, and basically just writing down names on the napkin or whatever at the bar. Awesome. I'll shout out Local and Liberty Village because that's where we were all situated around at the time. Yeah. But so it was basically just writing down names, seeing what would stick. I can't remember. I think it was something to do with honestly, like Our Day Job. Like, what is our day job? Like, our day job's kind of crazy. It's kind of like still creative. It's almost like kid-like in a way, like the way that you get to be creative and kind of basically like put like fun stuff out in the world. Yeah. And that's where the crayon came from. As our brand is the crayon with Day Job. And then it was just funny, kind of play on like a normal, what you think of as like a normal day job, 9 to 5. And then kind of what we get to do, which as the company grows, I find is a lot more of a normal 9 to 5, but that's right. But it's still fun. And the essence of it is that. Yeah, 100%. It was like, we're creatives at heart. It was started with all creatives, still mainly all creatives. So we just wanted to kind of have that kind of playful vibe within the brand.
But what kind of creatives were you? Were you guys photographers, videographers?
Yeah, 100%. So I started photography. Like that, I was a photographer as like my main gig, freelance, doing all that for many years. And then some of my other partners were designers and then 3D and VFX people. So we kind of started with a plethora of kind of skills and then kind of brought those all together and started bringing them to clients. I'm sure we'll get into it, but basically we started out with we wanted to do the big campaigns, but didn't have the work to show. No one would hire us. No one would even talk to us, kind of thing. Just as it goes as you're starting. But so we started to reach out to non-for-profits. And we reached out to like a couple, like just basically said, hey, put a roof over our head. We'll shoot you a campaign. We'll redo your website. We'll redo your logo, like anything that you want. Luckily, we got one that was somewhat connected to us. I forget why, but they agreed to fly us out to Nunavut for 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And
that's cool.
They were called Green Igloo. And we actually shot like a whole campaign for them. And did their website, did everything. After that, we kind of got the bug for doing those type of jobs. So then we did it again. I went to Uganda, did a kids hospital out there.
Wow.
Called Corsu. And then after that, came back with at least some work to show. Yeah. And then started showing it around to any of our contacts that would listen, and then started getting commercial work that way.
So are you offering, when you were pitching to these nonprofits, are you offering them the full service? Like, we'll do everything, or
whatever they needed at the time?
Okay.
Yeah. And whatever was not hard cost to us.
Got it.
Right. So it's like if they pay, because we were all broke starting a company, right? Yeah. So there was no income coming in. So it had to kind of be like, feed us, put a roof over our head,
Yeah.
like all the bare minimums for us to survive while shooting and doing that. And then if they covered that, then we would do all the work for free.
Oh, interesting. Then and you said you just reached out to your contacts after you had built those case studies to kind of market what the company does?
Exactly, yeah. And it was even just through those jobs, like through those contacts, like we had a couple of big launch parties for those brands and those shoots, like just those parties and stuff. We kind of got a little buzz about that. But it sounds like go shoot it and then you start working. Like it's not that at all, right? It's still like no matter how good your portfolio is, like you got to be working every day to find that next job, figure out who that next contact is. Because I find that even when you do a good job for someone, it's no guarantee that they're coming back to you. Like sometimes they're just like maybe the process was 3 months, like from start to finish. They're just bored of being around you. So they're just like the work went great. It wasn't exactly what you want to do, but you don't want to like you just want to be around someone else for another 2 months, and then they'll come back after those 2 months.
That's true.
So it's like there's no guarantees and like recurring work. So it's just like always grinding, trying to figure out who's coming next.
And how did you find who's coming? Like, so how do you get to the next person? Like, what would?
Yeah, so that was like honestly like cold calling a lot of people over the years. Like I can talk about what we did then, but I can also talk about like what we do now because obviously we fine tuned it. Yeah. Kind of the key is kind of going to the source, figuring out if people are willing to talk to you, figuring out who the person that makes the decision at the company is, because we find that every time it's a different person. Like it can be even different whole like sections of the company. Sometimes it can be accounts, sometimes it can be art directors, creative directors, ECDs sometimes. So it's the first thing that we do is try to find out. Basically, we let our work get us into that first conversation, and then after that, we kind of find out who the person is, and then really kind of be emailing back and forth with them, sending them updates to work that we've done like recently and stuff like that. If it goes cold for a bit, and then just trying to get on some sort of project with them. And then usually from there, it can grow a little bit. But yeah, it's just about honestly just always being out there and getting more context.
Interesting. So are you on LinkedIn finding these people and then emailing them directly, maybe sending a portfolio, sending a case study?
Yeah, 100%. So my LinkedIn is probably the worst out of all of our company. Like I'm still probably the as far as LinkedIn goes, like the most back in the freelance days. Like all my other partners and stuff, they're very like I don't know, their LinkedIn can speak for them. Mine is like, I don't even know what it says on there. But no, it's about like really going into your network of like anyone that you know and just being like, hey, I work, this is what I do, this is some of my work, and like, is there any way I can do a capabilities presentation? Like that's all I ask. Like that's all. Don't give me a job, just let me come in and show you where I'm at, right? Because agencies need all levels of work, so it doesn't really matter where you're at. The way that I got into agencies in the beginning was doing free work. So it's like that was not even just the non-for-profit stuff, but like I'm talking back like freelance photographer days was going and shooting their events and those kind of things. And then eventually working up with those companies to get bigger and bigger jobs. But yeah, sorry, what was the question?
I was asking like you're kind of like your LinkedIn strategy and how you actually, like how you connected with some of these new clients that you wanted to reach out to.
Yeah, 100%. So that was definitely like through a lot of the work. And I'll say that you should have our operations manager on here as far as the LinkedIn goes. But he's the one that's kind of like, I have 1,000 emails. I'm going to send out like A/B test different types of like copy, stuff like that. I think one of the main things to take away from that is conversational. Like no one wants to see a long message. No one wants to see, like people want to hear what's up. Right, like that, and then maybe a link to your work, so then they can qualify you into at least what conversation they have with you. But it's got to be simple. It's got to be straightforward. It's got to be like you actually like just like came across them and was like, hey, what's up? And then let your work speak, and then just see if you can get in for any level of conversation with them, because that's where it all starts.
You kind of plant the seed, because it can come off as salesy if you're generating these kind of mass emails that are almost generic. Very like robotic. Copy is really important, right? So,
and what we've had success with too, as far as cold reaching out in the past, especially as like a not reaching out as a company, but reaching out as like a freelancer or something like that, is asking for advice, like going after like I don't know, you're like not your Steve Jobs, but like let's go a couple of rungs down. You're ECD at a big agency,
right?
Like and being like, hey, like I'm just starting out. I just want to know if I could get some advice from you and stuff like that, because then they like see that you're kind of hungry, you're willing to reach out, and you can start like valuable conversations that way. And then maybe as your work develops, you can reach back out to them, and now they already know who you are, and you can say like, this is where my work's gone since we've talked. Yeah. Is there anything I can come in and help you out with?
Yeah, and you leave impressions like that. Like they're gonna remember that, oh, this hungry kid came in and he just wanted to learn. Like he didn't want anything from me, he just wanted a little bit of time. And I think that goes a long way, showing that initiative. That's at least that's how I built my career as a freelancer. It was just being eager to do anything and almost everything. So
100%. And hunger, like you don't realize it, but like while you're doing it, but like hunger comes across more than like anything. Yeah. Especially in those first like couple of years or whatever that you're starting out, building your portfolio, trying to build your client list. Like it's like if you seem like you're passionate.
Yes.
But I group passion in with hunger, because you have to be passionate to be hungry. Yeah. It comes through and like if you're reaching out to everyone and like they can like feel it, and if you're just like, hey, I'll come out, I'll PA, I'll whatever. Like a big thing that I did when I was starting out is I was PAing, but then I was also shooting BTS photos while PAing. Cool. And then that was like, luckily the agency
extra value.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And luckily the agency don't do this with every, because you might get in a lot of shit, but luckily the company I was working with saw a value in that.
Yes.
So I got to practice, and like I was shooting stuff for my portfolio. Like it was like I was BTSing, but I was still shooting the same set and like whatever my angles and all that kind of thing. So I was getting work for my portfolio while I was doing that. But once again, check very seriously with your AD if they if they want you
to show that stuff.
Show it, and if you're allowed to have a camera around your neck the entire time you're working.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So can we just rewind back a little bit as to why you even started our day job?
So why we started our day job? Well, it has to start with basically it's just been a progression. Naturally, starting out photographer, freelance. It was started out as a hobby. Started out as a GoPro 1 for Christmas, shooting snowboarding videos with my friends, and that was just a like I didn't even know like I was actually liking the fact of creating something. I didn't even realize that. I was just like, I want to like record us snowboarding, and I want to be able to watch it when I go home. And then once I started doing that outside of snowboarding, I started realizing that I liked the creating part of it, and it didn't even matter what the subject was. I liked creating something. So then just was as a hobby shooting with actually a friend that got a job at an agency early on as an intern, and was just shooting, and I lived with him, and was just shooting him and like around the city and just doing a bunch of stuff. Yeah. And then his agency saw those photos and was just like, oh, does he want to come and work for free for us? And of course I was like, yeah, of course I'll do that. Luckily that paid off. But so from photography got into like cinematography and that kind of thing. And then eventually there was a point where my standards were growing like faster than I was able to get better at like producing, like photography and video and stuff like that. So I started like figuring out ways that I could work with people that I thought were better than me, that could capture and create stuff that was better than what I was producing. And I thought that would be a quicker way to the top. So that's why I basically started like working more as like a production company. Yes. And being able to produce and bring in the clients and kind of organize, and then get to work with a lot of people that I thought were very talented, and luckily still work with those people today.
Interesting. So how many partners there are involved in our day job?
So there's me, and then there's four other main
and you guys partners. Are equal partners on everything?
We're sure. We're we're equal.
So how do you like? How do you?
In like seniority in the company, and like we're very equal. We all have equal input. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you navigate between like having so many partners? Like
we all have different skills. Honestly, like it's really worked out well for us because we all kind of take our thing to polish. We all kind of are always working on something. Like I'm basically the head of the production side and then the studio side. And then we have Alex Granger, who's a director for us, and then he directs a lot of our spots, and then he also helps produce some of the stuff as well. It's basically me and him kind of tag team the production side, and then we have Shane, who's operations, and he handles like some would say as a creative, the real hard work, like the shit that we won't be able to figure out, and like the actual like
the legwork.
Yeah, the legwork, right. Building a company, like finances, like all that kind of stuff. He like that's his kind of thing, and then we have Corey, who's our CEO, but he's also like our CCO. But he's also like our designer and branding kind of guru. And then we have Juan, who's his creative partner, who's also who's our ECD, and he is on the branding side and creating our branding products and stuff like that.
And now you're rebranding our day job. Like what sparked that?
Yeah.
Well, we can go into there's a day job in the U.S., but other than that, we've needed it for a while, right? Because I would say during COVID was the big kind of realization. I'm sure that both of you went through the same thing. Was oh shit, all our work's gone.
Yeah.
For about 3 months, right? It was just like you get the call like 1 week
Everything's
period.
canceling.
Everything's canceling. Like, oh, we're gonna take it back up once we figure out what this is. The classic thing, and whatever.
2 years later,
I'm not holding against them. Obviously, that was what we had to do. But so that was basically the time where we're like, what do we do? Like we had a bit of animation and kind of 3D work that we were doing, but that was very heavy handed. That was all on one person, like one partner, and it was just like if the job, it was almost like a freelance thing. Like if the job came in, it went to him, and then it was just him. Like none of us could help, right? Because we didn't know 3D or any of that stuff. So it was very like one-sided. So we're like, we need to figure out what else we can add to this. And Corey and Juan, both being designers by trade, they worked at Cassette for many years and other agencies. Basically, they were just like, okay, let's start the branding side. So then that was the big thing that kind of got us through the first little bit of COVID until the shoots started trickling back in. And then we've had that branding side growing. And it used to be like 85% production, 15% branding. And now I'd say it's 50-50, both branding projects and production. And we basically have been speaking from the same website that was done like 2 years ago. Looks like a production website, just like Vimeo links, that kind of thing. So we're just like, oh, well, the rebrand is also good because it's going to allow us to relaunch our capabilities and like basically show off the rest of our company, and it just makes sense to kind of come under a new moniker to do that with.
So what is the new moniker? What's the new name?
So I've Got Dreams.
I've Got Dreams.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know where that camera
How
is,
did
but this is our our icon.
Oh, that's a new icon. I like that
That's the
icon.
new- yeah,
That's
exactly.
cute.
I had to wrap it. I'm a billboard.
Was it also at a bar on napkins, or was it more at the
No,
office?
so this one, no. We didn't have the copywriter help on this one.
Okay.
Shout out to Kenny, by the way. He gave us a lot of good names, but
Kenny.
yeah, Kenny. Where did it? No, so our Corey, one of my partners, he basically over the years, it was always a thing that he always says, I've got dreams too. And it's always like, one more drink. No, I got dreams too. I'm going home. Like that kind of thing. So it's always been a saying that's around. Like even our first merch for Day Job had I've got dreams too on the front and then Day Job on the back.
That's sick.
So it's been around the company for a long time. So we finally just like went with it. But yeah, I'll like, maybe you can flash some of the branding in my intro.
Yeah.
And then you
for
can
sure.
like,
That's
you can
cool.
kind of understand like how the brand speaks. Cause it's not as, like aspirational as like I've got dreams. Like it's not like clouds and stuff, but like
Okay.
I'm curious to see it.
I'm curious now. I'm wondering.
I'll
what
send
it
you
is.
guys some stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So is that changing anything internally with the services or like your teams?
Well, our team's grown. Our team has definitely grown over the years. We have, if you're growing a company too, luckily we have one of our partners is Venezuelan. So he went to graphic design school and with a lot of, obviously in Venezuela with a lot of people. And then they've all moved on to Mexico City now. So we've actually been employing a lot of people in Mexico City on the design side. So it's great. And then Juan kind of manages the team. It's all his friends from back in school.
Nice.
So that's been a big development for us, is growing the team in Mexico. And then also we've grown our internal team, just like project managers and more producers and stuff like that. But yeah, it's still at the core like a very similar company to how we started. Like I don't think we've hit that overwhelming corporate mark yet. Like we're still having fun. We're still like, it's still open conversations with everyone. Like we fight like any other company fights, but it's just like we always make up and it's still a good vibe over there.
How did you get to the point where you are now owning 4 different studios across 2 different countries?
So that's a COVID thing as well. COVID brought on, no, I'm not going to say that. COVID was horrible, but no. So we started during COVID. We were in an office space, and I'm sure if you've ever worked in an office space, we were setting up the boardroom of like, we were a shared office space with another company, a weed brand. And once COVID hit, they basically took off, weren't in the office anymore. So we turned it like their boardroom into like our studio.
Yeah.
And so, but we had to set it up and tear it down like every single time.
Oh yeah.
So just around that time, we were just like, oh, well, rent's down, commercial rent's down. Like, why don't we just get a studio? And I was just had the thought, like, let's get a studio space that we can always have set up. We were doing like a lot of product work at that time. Like just like backdrops, cannabis stuff, like just a lot of that kind of stuff, social. So we just like, let's get a space. And then I've been renting spaces for 10 years just through whatever, photography and cinematography and all that. So it's like, I knew that there was a market for rental spaces. So I was like, okay, we'll get a space, and to lower our overhead, we'll rent it out from time to time, right? We'll make it like a shootable space, that basically a space that didn't exist as we were, like, I was growing up as a photographer. Like, we want to make sure we put everything into it that like I always wanted in a studio. So then we built that out and opened it. And the goal was to just rent it like a couple times, just to like help pay for the rent. Like maybe a perfect world was our rent was covered.
Yeah.
But then it started renting so much that it like became a thing where like we couldn't even like shoot in there. Like I had to put our shoots in the schedule, just like it was just like, and like a month in advance, just to make sure that like they were there.
Yeah.
And then it just became this thing where we're just like, oh, like the studio market is actually great. And obviously we all know the Toronto film industry and everything is growing like exponentially over the next couple of years. So we got that. And then it was Vancouver was the next spot. And it was, we kind of misjudged Vancouver a little bit. We're doing really well in Vancouver now, but the goal was always to let's get a brick and mortar space in Vancouver. We'll do the same model. It will pay itself off through the rentals, and then we'll use it as growth into the market and for the production side and then the branding side as well. But we went to Vancouver and we found out that it's a lot of movies and TV shows and not as much commercial work. So we had a hard time. We didn't put that much effort into it because the studio started like making money itself. Yeah. So it was like an entity that was making money. So it wasn't like we had to make it successful as the production to make it worth going there. Okay. So we didn't put as much effort as we should have into it, and we probably still will. I actually just rented a place down there, so I'm going to be down there a lot more. Okay. Yeah, so we basically, we couldn't find that much commercial work in Vancouver. I don't know if it was just like the way that we were connecting or what it was, but the space is doing great. And then Chicago was the next one, and that was basically our first US play.
Oh, okay. So why the US? Why?
We've all heard of these these budgets that still live down in the US, right? Yeah. So we went searching for those. But the same model. It was like, why not? Like we obviously the market is huge in Chicago. Some of the biggest agencies, head offices and stuff like that are in Chicago. So we did a market analysis on like what's the lowest rent city with the highest amount of like commercial business, right? And Chicago was up there. There's a couple other ones, but Chicago was close enough to drive and not that far of a flight. So we're just like, we'll go with Chicago. And then, so we've only been open there for like 5 months or so. And it's been going well. We hired someone down there, but then they got another job. So now we're currently looking, if this goes to Chicago at any point, currently looking for another producer / salesperson in Chicago. Okay. Yeah. But we're about to, with our relaunch, after we finish that, we're going to do a big push for like US work.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you go about doing that push?
It's actually a lot of it comes from people that rent the agency or rent the studio.
Okay.
Because you get a lot of agencies renting the studio.
Smart.
Yeah. So then it's just it's an easy reach out.
Leverage their community.
And yeah, exactly. And it's honestly like I can't say like much more about it's as simple as getting a capabilities presentation. If your work is at the point where you think that it's good to show and it's you have a wide range of stuff and maybe you have like a niche within that you really target at and you can like really sell that in the meeting. Capabilities presentations for agencies, they always love to have them. And you can get it from their creative directors, you can get it from their accounts people, because sometimes their accounts people are just like, we are being forced to produce a lot of this stuff. A lot of big agencies, different levels of it.
Right.
The accounts people are like falling into a producer role because
Yeah.
it's just like a new thing. It's like a new social
Handling
client.
the money, yeah.
And they can't get a big production company or whatever to handle that side of it. So they're doing a lot of that work. So reaching out to them, and if they're at that point where they're doing all this work, and you can be like, hey, my team can produce it. We can like take all this work off your plate, and this is the quality of our work. Then it's a great in.
It's pretty easy sale at that point.
It's pretty, it still takes like the sales process is an instant, unless they like obviously you can have a project that they're already going on right when you talk to them, which is nice to have, but that's not always the case.
So what's the best piece of advice that you've received from an agency when you ask for advice? I know you said you went to other agencies to ask for advice. What's the best piece of advice you've gotten?
So the best feedback that we've got, like we've done lots of presentations, and sometimes there's always one person in the room that wants to be honest and wants to tell you how they felt about your presentation, which is great. We actually love it. People think they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, but like, I'm going to tell you this. And then you're just like, please, like all of you tell us this because it's going to help us on the next one. Is being very direct, very clear, like not having like different directions, like going in after one thing, right? If you're going in preaching that you do social, like showing TikToks, showing like all the different levels of what social actually is, right? And not just showing basically a broadcast commercial and being like, and we also do social and we do this and we do that and we do that, whatever. Set up a different meeting for that.
I see.
Because a lot of the times at the agencies is a different people you need to talk to.
Yeah.
So it's about like really targeting a certain section, even if you're great at everything, even if your company does everything really, really well. Select a group of that you can just like be very clear about, and present that. And then the next thing, which is probably the biggest thing, I got this from a old agency legend at a bar again.
Yeah.
His name was also Doug. But he told us that the minute that he started making it all about them, he won every pitch.
Oh,
so it wasn't about, you need to be qualified. Yes. Right. People need to know. People need to be comfortable. You have to, exactly. You have to be at a certain level that they feel comfortable putting you forward, because it's at the end of the day, right? It's them putting you forward.
Yes.
And if you screw up or if like something goes wrong, it's on them, and like so that kind of thing. So they're always worried about how they're going to look by putting someone forward. So they're going to qualify you first, based on your work. But then it just needs to be about understanding what their problems are, right? Yeah. So it's get that done as quickly as possible, like qualify yourself. And I honestly, what we're doing now is we're sending reels just before our capabilities presentation, and just being, that's like the qualification stage. And then all we do in our presentations is we go through, this is what a normal work back looks like. This is what a normal budget system looks like. And it's more about the process and not about our work.
Yes.
And like what it's like to work with us, like throughout all the experience of working with us.
Yeah.
And then we get through that in about 10 minutes. And then it's just, okay, and what was the last project you guys worked on? Like, was there any issues with it? Like, just deep diving into everything. People love telling you what their issues are, because they want to feel like you understand what you're like, you understand how to help them, and like does your kind of is your company set up to fix any of the issues for them? Yeah. So it's good to have a good understanding. And then another thing is, before that capabilities presentation, is to have a discovery call. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's one of the people, maybe it's the contact that you got. Basically have the call with them first, and just be like, what is everyone looking for? What are the problems with just with the people you're going to present to? You don't care about the rest of the company, right? Yeah. Because that's another ability to get another capabilities presentation. Because if you do a social one to all the social people, then you can say, oh, that went great. Do you mind connecting us with the broadcast people? Yeah. And then you set up a presentation for the broadcast, and then you do that. I see. So yeah, it's just about like making sure you're very clear, direct, and then also making it about them most of the time.
And how many are you involved in the presentations? Like,
it depends. Depends what it is. Obviously, if it's branding, I'm not involved in the branding, but production, it's usually me and Shane, who's like tried and true accounts his whole career. So he sees it from the other side, and there's usually a lot of accounts people on these presentations. Yeah. So he kind of I kind of bring the half knowledge of what we're actually talking about production wise, and then he brings the other half of what the needs of a company actually are and how we fit within those.
Do you guys like bring up numbers on the first, like initially? Like when did the numbers come in?
Numbers do come up. Usually we don't like to answer numbers in, like, I'll tell you whatever number you want here, but usually in a presentation we don't like to answer numbers because we don't know what this, like, the scope is.
Yes.
And they don't even know what the scope is because we're
Yeah.
talking about like fictitious projects.
Yeah.
So we kind of curve that a little bit by just saying, basically it's just like, it's about showing value for the price. And it's not necessarily, it's 100,000 for whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
It's about basically like understanding their scope and like what they can get out of that 100,000 and then showing them the levels that come from it, like the amount of content that can come from that money.
Yeah.
And not necessarily like quoting something, but we will put a couple projects in our case studies with values on them. And it will just be like, this is a full-blown broadcast to social. This is the cost. This is how many days, shoot days, just so they have a general idea. But if they're asking us to like quote on projects, like in the presentation, we'll usually try to deflect that in whatever way we can.
So you don't, I know some people are like, don't be the first one to bring up the number, right? Get
That's
their
the
number.
tried and true, right? First person
that,
to say the number loses.
Yeah, exactly. Is that the case for you, do you find?
It's gotten easier over the years because we're not, at the beginning, I'd say we were just pulling numbers out of the hat. We were assessing how much people could pay.
Right.
And basically that's where we were getting our numbers from.
Yeah.
Like basically like how big the project is to them, how big the company is, like all those kind of things. And over the years, as we've worked with more operations people and stuff like that, it's literally been like a sheet. And it's just writing out how many hours are going into this, how many, like what is our blended rate, and then it's just like a big algorithm now to come to the prices. But obviously you still deal with the like licensing and all those kind of things. And then also like usage and all those, but those are all, that's still an interesting place now.
So do you guys like have retainer clients as well, or is it mainly case by case?
Yeah, we've done a bunch of retainer clients over the years. We had one from New York. It was like a Lacton. It's like a facial cream company. Okay. We had that one for a bit, but that one sucked.
And how do you set that up? Like as a in terms of cost, in terms of your budgets, like how do you kind of set that up?
It was basically, we just went to hours, like how many hours we're gonna have to do it. It was all internal people that did it, who like managed that account and did all the work. We did it all in our studio, and it was just basically like very, just like create these 14 assets, and that was like the month. Right. Okay. So it was very simple to price those ones out. We've done other larger retainers, but we find it's hard. Retainers are hard unless you have like the most detailed like outline of like your scope of work and what's expected and stuff like that. A lot of the times you'll get bullied going with retainers.
Yeah.
But they like, a lot of people expect you to be like, now you're a part of their team and you're like
kind of like their employee.
Your employee, exactly.
Yeah.
And they can just switch ass on you whenever they want and like all that kind of stuff. So obviously retainers are great for building a bigger team.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're great. But for like day-to-day like happiness of your team, they suck.
Yeah, that's kind of what we've experienced with agencies that we know. It's like the retainers pay the bills, supports the salaries, all that stuff. But at the end of it, some clients are just pain in the ass to work with. And the retainer is important for the business, but it's just brutal for everyone else.
You become, and we had this moment, right, where we staffed up like 8 or 9 people.
Oh, wow.
Because we had a bunch of retainers. And then we made the choice to cancel all of our retainers. And unfortunately, we had to get rid of the people that were attached to those retainers.
Yeah.
But it's honestly like the more your overhead is, like you become like attached to it. Like you don't, like you can't get away from it. It's like you may be making all this money, but it's like if you look at your overhead, your monthly overhead and your people cost, it's like you're not really making any money, especially if you value every hour that someone does work, right?
Because a retainer could always lead to like a change in approach in whatever it is you're doing, which
all the
could
time.
then cost more
Like
money.
every 2 weeks.
So then now you got to like, okay, now my retainer's got to go up, and then that defeats the whole purpose of retainer. And
100%.
Like
and then sometimes they're like, can we cash in half the retainer for like a full like campaign, like project? And you're like, no. Yeah.
So what's the current business model? Like, is it per project kind of basis, or what are you attacking now?
A lot of per project, and a lot of really like making getting more awareness is our big play right now.
Okay.
And that's what we're doing with the launch, and we're going to start doing a couple more agency specific like parties and events throughout the year now that we have kind of enough space to do it.
Yeah.
So it's a big awareness play, getting more clients, obviously, but also like really doubling down on the clients that are currently hiring us. We do have a decent rehire rate. Like I wouldn't look at it and be like, people don't like us.
Yeah.
But,
That's good.
yeah. But yeah, so it's basically like doubling down on those clients that you have, seeing what else you can build with them. We're trying to build like products, like it's not necessarily as far as products, but we want to build like offerings with people that we work with. So if it's an agency that just got a bunch of social clients, we want to build an offering that we power, right? Okay. So it's like basically we're the engine. They're the sales funnel for us, and then we're the engine doing all the work, right? So that's like a big thing that we're trying to do with the new rebrand and with some of our relationships. And some of them are doing pretty well currently, but yeah.
Okay, that's great.
No.
Yeah.
How often do you source outside contractors to do work?
Well, every single shoot, like we have our staff, like contract, like full salary people, and then obviously for every shoot, we're like 80 down is kind of like we have we're our director's staff, but then it's usually like all crew is like we have the people, and then we have our extended
So you have
family.
your core directors.
Yeah, so it's
right.
Yeah, exactly. So we have our core directors, photographers, and stuff like that, and then we have our extended family that come on for our shoots, and they're like we're hanging out with them all day. They're all our friends. Like they're not just like a Facebook post like hire.
Yeah.
They've been around for like 2.5 years, 3 years. They travel with us on all our jobs. Like we're all pretty tight that way.
Yeah.
But as the big thing that we've been doing, because we've been doing a lot of bigger jobs over the last year, is just working with a lot of different art departments. Is the big thing. So those are kind of the outside of the family where we're basically like a big job comes up and we'll work with them for the amount of the job. But they're not people that have been around us for the last like 2.5 years and are actually like emotionally invested in the company. But
interesting. So how did you build that community? What was your number one way of building?
Honestly, luckily we had a lot of friends that worked in the industry when we started.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it was from our background, right? So our background is from agencies, is from production companies, is from freelance and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then as you both know, like work takes up your entire life. So usually your best friends are the people that you're working with.
Yeah.
So just over the years being in the industry for so long, it's been just people that you've worked with in passing, like fellow studio owners, like all that kind of stuff. But yeah.
Very interesting.
Now, are you touching photography at all anymore? Or is it?
Yeah, I could show you our website and show you what campaigns I shot. But
Okay, that's cool.
no, I haven't. Recently, we were doing this job up in Sept-Îles, Quebec, and it was for the NHLPA.
Oh wow!
And I was shooting. It was like a documentary, and we didn't bring a set photographer up there, but they needed some stills, so I did it. Okay. And I'm. Let's just say we ended up taking stills from the video because I was just like, I don't know, I guess my mind, like I have to, like I was so in it right back then, and I was like looking at mood boards and like thinking about everything the night before, and like really like being nervous about shooting the night before. And then this time it was just like, oh, we need a couple photos. Okay, I'll shoot whatever. I still love photography. Still, like I shoot with my phone wherever I go, and I try to make nice photos. Cool, but it's the I think I'm broken on the commercial side of photography.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you have your team for that, right? So
I have a team, and I like I'll never shoot to their standards.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like it's you'll see a drop in quality.
Now, do you guys have like a minimum level of engagement with the client if they reach out to you, or is there other projects that you won't go below a certain range in terms of budget?
Money wise?
Yeah.
You know, it all depends, right? It depends on the amount of work versus the budget.
Yeah.
Like I would never say no to a 20K, 15K job if it's like going to take us a day. Like those kind of things. So it all ranges.
Case by case.
Case by case, yeah. Obviously we have our kind of sweet spot and what we like to do, but it's like, as you know, like the bigger jobs, like it really depends on the creative. Like the creative can swing in some small direction, and it can turn your profit from like 30% to like 5% just on like this one little change that they did, because it's like so many moving pieces that have to move along with it.
Yeah.
So it's honestly like we won't say no to anything, like maybe below 5K.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to find a way to make money under 5K when you have so much operating expenses.
Yeah.
But most jobs we're pretty open to.
Now, are there any dream projects or projects that you're trying to really get right now?
That's a good one. We actually did an exercise the other day where we all wrote out like who our dream clients were.
Oh, okay.
And like who we really want to like target and go for. I've always been like back to my like snowboard roots, like not a snowboard company, but like I've always been wanting to shoot for like Vans.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Something like that. Like
Nice.
I love the bit like the but I'm talking like the high budget like van stuff,
Yeah.
like where they have like 100 different areas, like 100 different talent. Like it's this whole
That's cool.
crazy thing. Like obviously Adidas is the classic for that.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. Those were like always my two. I know I've seen like the same kind of thing over and over again. It's just like throw a 360 camera in and edit like 20 times and like move really quickly and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think that would still be fun. I would love to do like high fashion, like a Burberry,
That's cool.
like something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That would be big. We were actually talking about this. We had an overnight shoot the other night, and just on break, we were all talking about this is funny. Yeah, definitely a high fashion shoot. We've done some stuff for Holtz, but it's always been like lower tier stuff. So I'd love
Right.
to do like an actual like campaign.
Did anyone else on the team bring something up that you're like, oh, I never thought about that?
Trying to think. No, not really. It was all like we were all kind of like
Same page?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Like that's where we're at. Like some of our team are like more like art house, like documentary
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So they were just talking more about like longer form, like big travel jobs and like remote area kind of jobs. But
Okay, cool.
yeah, like not necessarily like a huge brand, but more like a lifestyle piece.
Yep.
So what would be your next steps if you wanted to hit that Vans gig, if you wanted to hit that Adidas gig?
That's a good question.
We haven't got to that step yet. we just.
Oh, what do you think?
We've done step one. We wrote them down, and then I realized I was on another call. But no. So the next steps would be trying to find. The thing is, in this world, right? You gotta, especially in production, you gotta rep good talent, right? For like the bigger jobs, like it's not enough to be able to do it.
Yeah.
It's like they want the name, right? They
Yeah.
want the like the quality of work obviously is amazing. But it's like once quality is like accepted, that's when it's just like it becomes something else, right? It's just
Yeah.
like they want to go with always the bigger and better production company. They want the bigger and better.
Politics involved.
Yeah, politics involved.
Yeah.
They want to be at the better editing suite. They want to have like the dinners paid for. They want to be like all that kind of
I
stuff.
see.
So it's hard. We're trying to figure out how to crack into it. We are talking to a lot of like other directors and stuff like that, and kind of sensing the waters. We do have a really good system built with our team, and we really want to double down on the education for a lot of our clients for like what we can bring with our team.
Yeah.
So that's going to take a bit of work, but we've been forced to work with like outside directors for certain projects and stuff, like ones that we really want. And it'll be so niche. It'll be like comedy, kids, like winter. And you're just, and then they expect
Really
to see,
niche.
they expect to see a director who has comedy, kids, winter, and 7 different spots. And you're just like,
Yes, exactly.
you're like, oh crap. All right. So yeah, that's been a bit difficult as far as like growth wise.
Yeah.
Because we're now sitting in like the 100 to like 300K range is like average for a production.
Okay.
But like we've been up for 500, 600 ones, and like we've never won them. And then so like I think we do need to build our roster out a little bit and start networking with a lot of
see.
talent.
Okay.
We're thinking about maybe partnering with some US directors.
Okay, so it's what's stopping you is essentially that the politics of the names of
Not necessarily the
people.
politics. Like I'll say that, but it's not like
Yeah.
whatever. They're better than us. That's the politics.
But
Their stuff looks better than ours does.
So the partnerships with the directors is going to help
Exactly.
elevate the work to
It
that.
will,
I
yeah.
see.
Where we can be we can foster our relationships and build the relationship to the point where we're getting those boards, right? And then we need, like, unfortunately, you do need niche directors and everything that most boards come in, right? Especially the higher and higher you go up. So that's unfortunately that's the way that the business goes. And like no credit away from those directors, right? They've put in the work to get to that level. So
Yeah. So it really is that niche thing is true then, what they say about like how you don't just shoot a beer bottle, but you shoot a green beer bottle and you've
Yeah.
done it this many times.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like,
Yeah.
It is, but I in my heart of hearts, I don't want to believe it. But it is
true.
It is right now.
Okay.
But
okay.
the way that everything's changing, right? Like the way
Yeah.
that like broadcast spots aren't doing what they used to do, right? And it's not enough to say a ton of people saw your ad anymore.
Yeah.
It's gotta go. You gotta watch it through the funnel. You gotta see where people converted, what your ad actually did, right? And that's where social is becoming such a bigger player. And I think that the model of the like 6 different house like companies touching one campaign spot is going to dwindle. And that's why a lot of companies like Alter Ego or whatever, like they're doing production now and they're offering more services, because I think it's changing from, it's the new norm is not going to be like going to someone for your production, then someone for your color, then someone for your VFX, then someone for your
all
sound.
one type of thing now.
I think it's becoming more and more all in one, and I think it's the big companies that were those separate things are joining, or they're offering more services, because the cadence of social is almost impossible to keep up with in that model, right? Because every single company has their markup. So it's like, what budgets are you dealing with for social that you can afford a markup between 5 companies?
Right.
So it's like, even the markup is not enough. Like, it's too much. So I think it is changing, and we've seen a lot of things change, but it's still like, you always go back to that, the big campaigns you missed out on. And it's just like, why did you miss out? And it's just like, they went with another director. Right. Wow. And you see the other director, and it's just like, damn, like they had 7 spots that looked exactly like what they're shooting. And you're like, there was no chance I was going to win that.
Wow.
So how are you guys going about, like, it's a very competitive space. Are you guys taking approaches or steps or putting things in place to ensure that competitiveness, you can still make it out on top?
Yeah, it's competitive, 100%. We don't like to look at it as competitive. Like, we're just we're in our own lane. We're doing our own thing. Not to say that no one else is doing what we're doing, but I'm just saying, like, we're just one kind of, like, we have the blinders on.
There's tons of work, obviously.
There's tons of work. Yeah, we're going forward. We don't care if anyone else is successful doing anything that we do. Like, we're just focused on. There's enough work. Like, in this city, it's increasing. It's getting crazy, especially with social. Like, it's insane. Especially once budgets start going to social, and they like, maybe not, the budgets won't be huge for like TikTok and stuff like that, but like Reels might be coming like the new like commercial.
Oh,
like,
do you find that the budgets are starting to funnel towards that?
I do. There are a lot more people are asking for it, but not having the budgets for it.
Yeah.
But saying that they've won work, or they've won big projects that are all social based, but not having the budget yet, because the education period hasn't fully happened.
Yeah.
But we've worked alongside a media company prior, and that's where we really like learned about like the funnel systems and like retargeting and like how many pieces of unique content you actually need to like follow someone through their day and like all that shit. So it's it is there, and it's trackable, and it's like you can present actual numbers to a client, and that's like the biggest thing, right? Where you can say, this is what it did, it's not just an awareness play where like 100,000 people saw it. Right.
So how much are you guys integrating that into your pitches and when
quite
you're
a bit?
Jobs?
Yeah, quite a bit. But it's also that niche thing, right? When we're pitching broadcast, because we want to do more broadcast too. But when we're pitching broadcast, it's a very different deck. It's a very different presentation. When we're pitching our social, it's all talking about that. Like it's all like, this is the future. This, because I think it is. But it's still in the education phase. But I think that budgets will start shifting, right? Because people aren't going to pay $500,000 for something that they can't even like track whether it did well or not.
That's true, right?
Yeah.
So how much do you think it's affected budgets in terms of the whole industry moving towards social? Because it's obviously now more short form content as opposed to actual broadcast. You read the buy spot on on this thing. This has affected budgets, do you find?
Yeah, 100%. Broadcast budgets 100% have been going down. They've been split, where it's like, hey, I'm going to give you $300K for this, and then $40K of it's going to go to social, right?
I see.
Whereas before it would have been $340K of that broadcast, and there would have been maybe a cut down that came after, but it would have been a like taking the broadcast that the director shot 60x9 and was 460x9, and then just going like that, and then having the arms and the legs cut off and all that stuff. But no, they're basically they're being asked to get more out of the same budgets now. Right. So it's basically saying their company or their client is saying, okay, well, we have $300K and we need a month, 2 months worth of social, and we need our commercial. Right. And then they're not upping the budget at all. So that's where it's kind of being allocated. They're not creating new budgets for social. They're just chopping off the broadcast ones.
Interesting. And how is that? Like,
is what we've seen in a couple cases. But
okay.
No,
so I guess it's just you have no choice but to adapt to it. And you know.
You well, unfortunately,
Yeah.
you got to get efficient with your team.
Yeah.
Figure out like what is like, because like you still got to figure out how to make money, right?
Yeah.
Like we're making beautiful things, but like to run a company, you gotta pay the bills.
Yeah. So how do you do that? Like, do you have percentages that you like know we need this much profit to?
Yeah, it's always our goal. I gotta like whisper this. Yeah, it's always our goal. Whether we hit our goal or not, we
Right.
usually shoot for like, let's say, I won't say the exact number. Let's say we shoot for 10% over our goal, like as like a safety net, like a MISC budget. And then usually when shit hits the fan or whatever, you need another truck or whatever it is, that comes out of the 10%, and then we'll end up somewhere near our goal. Obviously, some are a little bit more than other because we do have a lot of internal resources that can shoot, that can edit, all that kind of stuff, that are all on salary. So it's some projects we can be very efficient. Like if it's a one camera setup, like whatever it is, auto show, car, like some car stuff or something like that, like they're very profitable
Yeah.
because it's like the production value comes in the car, which is given to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like you don't really, you don't need to like build a set or like anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those jobs are more, and then the bigger jobs, the bigger jobs are like you can obviously make more money based on that percentage, but it's really hard. Like it's really hard to keep it.
Interesting.
You make your initial budget, but then it's just like if you need 100 extra poles to build your softbox above like the set, like you're talking thousands of dollars. Like it just like goes out
quickly
the door.
goes.
Yeah.
Right.
So you try to keep that 10% buffer in there just in case to account for those costs.
Usually in the first initial budget, right? When you're like kind of blind budgeting, you try to, and then it's about just management with the expectations.
Okay.
Right. So it's like outputs and all those kind of things. And you can reel it back in a little bit as far as like deliverables and stuff go.
Yeah. So there's no like scope creep coming in. That's too extreme. There's obviously wiggle room within
There's
it.
always a scope creep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I would say scope creeps come in at about 20% like value. Like they're willing to give you 20% of their scope creep. Usually
Okay.
they'll be like, oh, well, we need a whole photo campaign from this. And we'll give you 20% of what a photo campaign would cost.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what we usually find. But I don't know. You got to, sometimes it's the relationships too, right?
Yeah.
If they're coming back with another job or this is the fourth job you've done with them, then we're open to playing ball with our clients.
So do you have any current challenges that you guys are facing right now that you guys are trying to overcome?
The director one is big. We've been working toward that, trying to figure out what that is. Because we're like in the grand scheme of things, we're still a small company, production company in Toronto. So it's like getting that cred, right? Getting people that want to come and who trust you enough to be repped by you, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we're playing with that. And then, just like that goes down to like, we're getting more and more boards. So we get like a lot of boards now, people sending to us.
Yeah.
And it's just about like how much we can capitalize on them and how much we can win them. And then a big issue that we're having is people expecting you to do a lot of work before they award the job. Like you'll be in a
Right.
triple bid.
Yeah.
And they'll expect you to like do a treatment and like have a director attached
pitch
and like
decks,
like have things scheduled and like all this stuff and you're like I want to pitch for this job, but like where do you draw the line, right? Like you're not paying me for any of this work. So it's like you might be up for a big job and want it, but it's just like the client is like not educated in the process, I guess. And a big thing of that comes from like when the agency's not involved. So it's direct to client.
I see.
Yeah.
Right? Because then it's just people at the client side coming up with like what they want, and they're just like, oh, triple bid, and like, oh, we need to understand if this company is going to do what we want, so let's put them through the ringer and figure out like ask all the questions, and like they think that they're simple questions, but it's like us behind a computer for 4 hours trying to like write out the stuff, and so like we've started like not really entertaining a lot of those.
Like at the risk of losing the job, but
we lost. We definitely lost the jobs.
because they want the easiest approach and the less friction they get. They're gonna go with that. Whether it's the best result, process is everything. But
like I find that like most companies in this city can create beautiful stuff.
yeah.
So
The
it's
standards are very high now.
Yeah,
So,
standards are very high. The talent is extremely high in the city.
Yeah.
There's tons of great crews that create beautiful stuff. So now it's just about the business of it. It's like figuring out how to stand out, how to build those relationships. Like, what do? You send like a bunch of iPads to people's front doors. Like what do you do, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's a ever changing game. And I'd say another thing that, to your question, another thing that we've had effects with over the company, and this is a little deeper, is just like being too goal driven and always like having, you know, a carrot on a stick,
Right.
always having the next thing, right, and never really understanding the growth of where you've like got and or celebrating anything along the way, right? Because it's always, we got this, that felt great. How good is the next bigger thing gonna feel, right? And then not taking that time to kind of stop and celebrate like where you've got, even like monthly, right? With like your team and stuff like that. And we've like, this is a big learning that we've gone through over the last like month or so.
Yeah.
And basically like connected as a team, and we're just like, why are we like fighting with each other over like stupid little things and stuff like that? And it was basically, a lot of it was because we weren't like celebrating any successes that we were doing. We were just going.
Yeah.
And then so it all like, no one felt valued. Like it was just
Right.
like a big,
You're just working and you don't even realize what
exactly.
you've done.
You're just
Right.
working, and then it's always just
Trenches.
like every little issue is an issue with no success.
Right,
So
right.
you have
Well,
like
yeah.
you have thousands of issues and no success. So it's like,
Positivity,
obviously you get like worked up, and we've got around that and kind of started to celebrate a little bit, and this
Nice.
big relaunch for us is going to be pretty big. And yeah, but that would be a thing, would be to like stop and look at what you've done, because a lot of people quit because they don't think that they have like grown at all or
Yeah.
gotten closer to anything. So I would say like try to look at your successes every time you can. Don't spend too much time on them, but at least do it a little bit.
Yeah, like, well, half an hour.
Half an hour, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm feeling that you kind of answered the next question, but
Yeah,
I did want to cap off with asking you for advice for people who want to do something
Yeah.
that you've done. That's part of the answer right there. But do you
Yeah.
have anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, 100%. Pricing wise, there's a tip because I've had a bunch of friends that have like started to get into photography and stuff like that, and it's always fun to kind of dump all your knowledge on them and like kind of see if the tactics that you know now like work for them and stuff like that. So I've done a lot of that. But I think the main thing when I was starting out, and you kind of have to be at a point where you can do this, like living with your parents or like something like that. But it's it like, if you're gonna charge like nothing for something, like if you're gonna charge like $200, $300, whatever, and it's like either you're doing like a big job or whatever it is, just charge like nothing, because then they put you at that price, right? And you're always the $300 photographer to them. And it's like not $300, but like whatever it is, 150, whatever it is. Like it's better if you can, like you'll get better benefits. It might be a longer play, but honestly, just like do it for free and just be like, so they don't have a value for you.
Yeah.
Right. So then you do the job, you do a great job, and then you can set your own value once they know
That's interesting.
what you basically like what you can do, right? And you can actually start from scratch and give yourself a proper amount, right? Rather than as soon as they pay you $300, you're $300
$300
for the next 2 years probably.
Yeah.
Like they probably
Yes.
maybe $400.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
you
that's
can't
all you're
stretch it.
that's all you're gonna get
Yeah.
from them, unfortunately. And it's the same as it grows, right? If you charge $5,000 for something, now you're the 5,000. When they get a budget for the same job that's 20K, they're never going to you. They're going to the person that turned them down
Absolutely.
at the 5K, right?
That's very, it's
So
very
that
true.
that was a big thing, and I've put that to the test through a couple of my friends coming into the industry, and they said it worked out super well for them. So that was
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I've recently like had a client that I love them. I
Yeah.
absolutely love them. And I was like, you know, they're 5K to 10K guy.
Yeah.
The second 20K came along, they went with someone else. In the back of my head, I'm like, why don't you come to me? You know, like in my head, I'm like, I can handle that. But then you understand that's just part of the business.
It's a psychology thing.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like it's an ingrained psychology.
Yeah,
You value
exactly.
like you're on the shelf at that value.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
very
how do you
good point.
break out of that? But like once you're in it,
Different clients. Like honestly, like you might have broken it on that one. Maybe different service. Like you do like video for them instead of photo.
I got it.
You got to add
Then
more
you can
value.
add more value.
Right.
It all depends, right? It's like sometimes you're just gonna like if there's someone that's giving you basically you got to switch your head. It is the awareness that they're giving you, which is the classic thing, right? You get awareness when you're coming up.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it do you value that as the rest of the money that you would have made on that job, right? Like
Yeah.
is it good enough to pay for your services?
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're starting out, like just shoot everything for free.
Yeah.
Just shoot. Like maybe if you have 2 paying jobs that week, like shoot the other 5 days for free and just like network and meet people and like stuff like that. Right. Because one, you're only going to learn on the job. Like you can do the YouTube and like all that stuff, but until you go out and like actually do it and fail, you're not going to learn anything, right? So yeah, it's just like work as much as possible, shoot as much as possible, and then try to keep that hunger, and then have that hunger like come through. Like it's just like overdo it,
Radiate.
like just radiate the hunger, because that's what people talk about. Like that's the water cooler at our company is like, oh, this person like just literally like, oh, they've sent me like, if you have an initial conversation with someone, and then they're like, oh, okay, let's set up another call for next week, and then they come back with like a whole, like they've thought about it all week, and they come back with a whole system of whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Like new work they want to show you or whatever.
Yeah.
That's like a holy shit, like this person's gonna put the effort in, and yeah, you want to hire those kind of people.
And what about starting a business? Do you have any advice for people who are starting a business?
Most people would say don't start it with your friends. I did start it with my friends, and it's been working out great for me. So start it with your friends. People that want to start a business is I don't know, like grow slowly. Really keep track of your finances. Like keep track of your hourly, like value your hours, right? Because you're not making money if you're not valuing your own time. So, and then that's how you have to judge whether like you need to put more effort into sales, or what, like you need to be like a more successful company, or your like goals for growing can be based on, what else? Yeah, it's just going slow, but like make sure you're like always learning something. Like every single week, you're like learning something new, right? And then also advancing the skills that you do have, but like you can't take like 3 weeks off. Like it's like honestly, like starting a company is like 60, 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week, every single week, Monday to Friday, like Saturday, Sunday. And you just have to get ready for that. And it like people always say like, oh, I remember when we started and it was so hard. And it, like, that's a real thing. Yeah. Like that's a real freaking thing. Like it is hard. And it's like, there's ebbs and flows, right? And it's just like, no matter how much success you get, you can still have that period where it sucks. Yeah. And it's, you think that like people think about quitting companies that other people think are like super successful, and like it's just because the mind state that you're in within that company, right? And it's just like your standards keep growing, and the levels of excitement you get are met, and then you have to exceed them to get the same feeling, right? So it's like always understand that, and then kind of like try to see like where the things are that are actually going well, and like focus on those and try to grow those. But it's honestly just like keeping hungry, and then always like learning, and basically just like trying to be better like every month or whatever, and people will take notice. And then also be like nice. Be nice. Don't ever be stuck up. Don't ever put yourself on a pedestal. Like it's just like you kind of like everyone that works for you, everyone that works in the industry, like we're all just in it together. So it's just like try to see that for everyone, and pay living wages whenever you can, as early as you can. Pay living wages, and then value the people that work for you, right? Because they're the ones at the end of the day that are doing a lot for your company, right? And they're the ones with the creative mindset, and that's what like I was growing up. And so it's just like valuing those people, and trying to like not keep them at the $200, and like give them the part of the budget that makes sense for the budget, and like
allow them to grow.
Exactly. And not try to like own anyone, and like all those kind of things, right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Man, lots of great information here, Doug.
I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, we learned a lot. Even I think personally, we both probably learned a lot from that. So we really
100%.
appreciate you coming.
Awesome.
And taking the time, man.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks.
That's a wrap.
Bye. That's it.